So I want to share with you guys a brilliant resource that I came across while I was just looking up for some UCAT questions. And actually, if you go to the official UCAT website, it's surprising that some people still don't go to the official website. But if you go to the official UCAT website and you go to prepare, okay, click on that. And there are practice tests, and a lot of people know about that. But then just go down when you go to prepare, just click prepare, go down. And I know everyone goes to the practice test tools, etc. But go to the question tutorial, press view tutorial, and you end up with multiple question tutorials. And what I'm going to be doing is actually going through these tutorials one by one and saying basically the tips that they give here are really good and they're from the official resource. And I think it will be very beneficial for you to actually maybe have someone go and talk through it with you for someone who has actually done a lot of UCAT tutoring in the past few years now. So let's go through the verbal reasoning question tutorial. Now, a lot of the stuff, verbal reasoning, I think you'd be familiar with it. It's the part where they're testing your vocational skills, they're testing your comprehension. And in many ways, I think when it comes to test strategies, I'll give you mine, and they've already mentioned theirs. But the first thing is do not try and attempt to make time yourself at the beginning. Make sure you do all the timing stuff at the end, closer to the exam. So I'd say not timing yourself around a month and honing those skills in. The first skills you need to develop is not timing skills. The first skills you need to develop is your ability to scan and skim and find the correct information using keywords from the text and passage. So remember, there is no negative marking, so answer all the questions. And the importance of flagging is paramount. If you find a question is too difficult or is too hard to answer, you need to be able to identify that. Okay, that's why I tell people, don't try to answer every question in the chronological order. Don't do that. If you find a question is too difficult, put an answer down what you think is most likely to be right after eliminating the wrong answers, and then put that right answer down what you think is the right answer, and then move on. Flag it and move on. You can come back to it and then work on it a little bit more, and you can spend more time on the easier questions. And that's actually a skill that they're still testing you within this with this part of the test. Stay calm during test. However, so the general consensus in terms of the evidence behind stress, a little bit of stress is good. It actually heightens you. However, too much stress can dampen your abilities. So have a little bit of stress and that's fine. But in general, most people overstress. So try to come in, calm yourself down, use meditation, whatever it might be. Try to figure out ways that will help you to stay calm during the test. And because this is something I struggled with when it comes to tests, I get overly worried, overly anxious, and I end up not doing so well in my test. But when I am more calm and I don't care, and I'm just like, whatever, a test is a test, I tend to do a lot better in it. So verbal reasoning. So verbal reasoning overview. When you're answering these questions, you do not use any prior knowledge. Remember, the 21 questions, 44 minutes, but only 11 passages. So they're going to be 4 questions per passage. So you want to take around 30 seconds to be able to skim read and be able to answer these questions per each question. But once you've read it once or twice, so after the first 2 questions you've answered it, you'll find that the third and fourth question are a lot easier to answer. Then they'll put the questions with they'll tell you to infer or draw conclusions, and they'll give you 4 questions with it. So let's go through some strategies. So they say they're different strategies, but actually the strategies you want to actually combine these strategies. So they say skim read the first before attempting the question. So if you look at the Medic Mind videos on their YouTube videos, I like the way that they approach this. So the way you would do it is you look at the text, you read the first and the last line of each paragraph, and so you understand what's in that paragraph, and then you try to find that. Then you read the question to find out where and find the key word in that question. So you now know where the keyword's going to be in that question. Once you've looked at the general of the passage. Find the strategy that works best for you. Again, try and combine strategies where possible, like I just did with that one. Skim read and find the keywords. And the more you can combine key strategies together that does not overlap with each other, the better you're going to have a chance at answering it very quickly. So there are 5 broad categories. Now, this is a very important, very, very important part, because if you know the 5 broad categories, you're actually able to answer these questions a lot better. So, for example, true, false, can't tells, incomplete statements according to the passage, except question the most likely. Once you figure that what type of question you're answering, you're going to use a strategy that works best for you to understand how am I going to answer that question. So, for example, true, false, can't tells is based on the this type of questions. There are a lot less now of these, so around 10% apparently. But true, false, can't tells, again, it's quite difficult to sometimes tell between the truths and the can't tells and the false and the can't tells. But if you, the general rule is if you cannot find the information at all from this passage, then it is a can't tell. So you must say that. So pause this video right now, have a go at this question, and then we'll go through how I would go about attempting this question. Okay, you've had some time. So let's go through this question. So here the answer is can't tell. So what are we going to do first? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to read that passage, the statement. We can also skim read. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. Just do one way or another. So the patient treated by the train all belongs to the ruling party which runs the government of the country. All right. So we then look at the different parts where I mentioned. So they said the first question, it says the regime needs to find a way to treat, support health conditions or injuries from the Civil War. And the last sentence it says, but they never had time, funding, or facilities to provide them. Okay, so we now understand that the first paragraph is something about the regime and funding, etc. The second paragraph, there was also effectively a traveling health center. And the last sentence it says it stays for a minimum of 2 weeks in every town, longer in most. The third one, it says the train has its own medical staff, and then it says that there are nearly 100,000 operations carried out to release her. And now it says, but now we're looking at the government of the country. But if we look throughout the paragraph, it doesn't mention anywhere from just quickly looking at what country is this country to. We don't know anything about that. It doesn't say about the ruling party or anything like that. So we cannot make that conclusion. So it's a can't tell. Incomplete questions, so they'll give you a statement as such, and then there'll be statements that you need to complete essentially. So let's try and complete this. Again, same strategy. What I'm going to do, you're going to read that statement, find the keywords, which here is going to be restorative justice, and then use that to find where am I going to find that answer. So okay. So the answer is going to be D. Now, restorative justice, so they said ministers are supposed to use restorative justice. So restorative justice is mentioned in the beginning. So they said restorative was promoted, okay, but of bringing offenders face to face, etc. So it's nothing about, a lot of it is is not to do with minor crimes, etc. Because it's actually a lot of it's to do with serious offences. So then it goes on, and we learn a lot about the violent disorders of this boy Roy and things like that. Again, that doesn't really answer the question. And then we look at the last one, which is the Mr. Joe research. Okay, the research. So that's the key word here. So there's 2 keywords you could have used. Restorative justice, we tried to use that, couldn't find anything. Could use Ministry of Justice, the research part, and we realized that's actually the keyword we needed because it's in the last paragraph and it's justified there in the last paragraph that what is needed. So sometimes you might not know exactly what the keyword is, and so in my case, I didn't know. I thought it was restorative justice. When I read that, I didn't get the answer. When I looked at it again and said, there's another keyword I can use, which is Ministry of Justice research. Then we look at it, and there's an exactly keyword there in the last paragraph. Bang, and we found the answer. Now, according to the passage questions, it's like this, where it's according to the passage, the 16th Constitution has been preferred to levied on every individual in the country because of what? So why was it happen? So we look for where have they mentioned the word poll tax. So if you just want to take a pause and try it yourself, cool. Hopefully you've done that. So now if you look at the poll tax, it mentions it in the second paragraph, and we know that the answer is A, because it says in 1662 when King Charles II needed money, instead of introducing a poll tax which people could evade by moving from one to another. So this is why it was introduced. So it is very clearly mentioned, and sometimes it is as easy as that. Then you have accept questions where you have to weigh up the information to say whether this is legitimate or not. This can be quite a more task heavy, and you have to really skim read. So here they say the passage takes a pessimistic view of Britain possibly becoming a string of islands over the next 200 years for all the reasons below except what. Okay, so just have a pause and read. So the answer here is D. There is now nothing anyone can do to alleviate the process. All right. So glaciologists, we learned all about. It says glaciologists were surprised that Hokkaido would disappear. They underestimated the potential for melting ice sheets, etc. And the evidence to show projection earlier by McGuire based on such first seven. This would okay. The both said. So at the end it says the research said that it would this would happen if we did nothing about and leading to the recent hurricane. So this would happen if we did nothing, okay? But that sort of implies that if you did something about it, we can do something. That is the reason. So this is saying if you did nothing. So that's not something that we uh it's a reason that we can use, okay, because it's not saying nothing can be done at all. They've not stated that reason here. So these types of questions I would say is a lot more challenging and something I would personally leave more to the end or flag it, because sometimes it's very difficult to find what the right answer is for these ones. Most likely questions, again, you need to try to reach the sort of conclusion. Again, this one's quite easy. You look at the letter, so it says 1690 to 1730. Now look, where does it say 1690 to 1730? I'll give you, I'll pause it. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go, and now you can see from the second paragraph here, 1690 to 1730s are mentioned, and it's talking about criticizing the government. So this is the members of the government that they're trying to attain to. So hopefully you found this quite tutorial that I just went through, that literally that it is in the UCAT tutorial that they're given from the official resource. I found it quite useful. Hopefully you found it useful too, and hopefully hopefully this has been quite insightful for you as well.